All right, today we've got 905 Shooter on the podcast. A little bit of an internet figure or pop culture figure. He was part of the Nelk Boys. He's on a little bit of a podcast tour right now where he's looking to rebrand himself, starting his own thing to kind of separate his image away from the way he was perceived with the Nelk Boys. So if you guys like this podcast, subscribe, rate, and share it with some friends. Enjoy. So you're on the podcast grind right now. I looked you up. You're doing a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah, no, you know why? It's fun. I like to talk to people. I like to just chill out and have good conversations. I've recently went on a podcast where they didn't really necessarily talk to the guests about what they kind of do or kind of dive deep into the same questions that other podcasts have done before.
Yeah.
It's more of just you chill out and you just talk about whatever is on your mind.
Okay. Did you like that better than the interview style?
It was different. I wouldn't say I liked it more, but it was a bit relieving. We're okay, I could actually just talk about whatever's on my mind, something that people could relate to, and also just kind of give fun facts, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like for some guests, it's if the audience who's watching you already seen a lot of other podcasts, they kind of already know.
Sure.
Right? For the new ones, it's you could always circle back to other podcasts, right? If they already have some.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Maybe if it's their first time doing a podcast where they haven't shared that much about themselves, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Where they could fully talk about themselves and really give a good intro to the online world of who they are, what they do.
Yeah.
So for somebody like me, I feel like I've talked about so much about myself that it's what else could I talk about?
Yeah. But I mean, I guess you see people authors and stuff, and they'll go on a big tour, and they'll pretty much do, and it's not the same podcast, but they'll do the same thing over and over again. But each podcast, if their fans will listen to them on each podcast, and even though it's so redundant, they'll get a kernel of something new, or the guest asks something in a different way. You know what I mean? Where if someone has something to talk about, that's usually what they're talking about on the podcast.
Yeah, if they have if they're trying to shout out a new book, or they're trying a movie or an album, for example, that's the perfect place to kind of promote it.
Yeah. You were on, so I was doing my homework on you. You were on, the biggest two you're on was the Nelk podcast and the No Jumper podcast.
Yes.
I didn't know, I didn't follow Nelk until their podcast.
Okay.
I'm because I'm into podcasts. I love listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
I listen to books. I love audio stuff. I don't watch a whole ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'd never seen the No Jumper guy, but he's massive, eh?
Yes. Yeah. Adam 22, he calls himself. He's been doing podcasting for probably I could be wrong.
Yeah.
The first time I seen him was probably 6-7 years ago. And he was kind of one of the sort of podcasters that kind of get into the whole YouTube world of doing artists and celebrities and different genres of not just music,
but pop culture, internet culture.
Yes. So he really dove deep into pop culture and sort of people within the culture of that people see on social media.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun experience. It was actually funny enough, the day that we're filming this, the podcast is released a year ago.
Oh, a year ago today.
June 10th, 2021.
Okay, I didn't realize. Yeah. Yes, because I watched that 2 days ago to prepare for this.
Yeah. And then the Nelk one, the Full Send podcast, actually.
Full Send, that's what it's called.
Yeah. So it's funny. Okay, it's interesting. Not funny, but it's interesting. So my episode is the only one that's only on Apple Podcasts and not on the YouTube channel.
Okay. Why is that?
I mean, it's probably for their own personal reasons. I don't know. I didn't really question it.
Yeah.
That's just up to them, what they want to post on the YouTube channel. So
fair enough.
Even for the fact that I was able to be in the same room as them after 2 years and able to talk to them for an hour and a half is better than it's better to just be in that present moment instead of thinking why wasn't it on the channel? It doesn't matter anymore, right? It's you could go listen to it, you could get the full details, full story, and there's no more. I guess there's no more questions left to be answered.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, because like I was saying, like I knew about the Nelk channel and I definitely seen some of the videos, but like I didn't follow it at all.
Yeah.
And then so late, like I've been binge watching it to prepare for this for this episode. So like I learned a lot, and like, man, those guys have built a massive brand.
Yeah, they
massive
have.
brand.
Yeah. And it's funny enough that you spoke about them is because we were saying off camera before we started filming that the reason why I found this podcast was because of a mutual friend named Paul Reed, who's actually worked with them behind the scenes. And it's funny enough, so we were actually, shout out to Paul Reed, by the way. This guy's he's doing big things in Toronto.
Absolutely.
So we were in Toronto. I was in Toronto at Trinity Bellwoods area, and I just so happened to stumble across his studio with all his coworkers.
Yeah.
And I'm across the street, and Paul was like, "Hey, 905, like, hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Oh, like, how can you like?" I mean, I have a recognizable face, I guess.
Sure.
So he just saw me from across the road, and then he kind of just vlogged a bit. And then he kind of told me the backstory of like what he did and like how he knew everybody in that group.
Okay.
And like all the behind the scenes commercials or campaigns. And then a few days after that encounter, I see him post a clip of you and himself and you on the podcast. I'm like, oh, this is really cool because the production is so cool. Like the two camera angles, the lighting, the editing style. It's just like something you want to see when you're looking on Instagram or TikTok, for example.
Sure. Yeah. Are you do you have desires or a design to do a podcast?
It's funny
yourself?
you say
'Cause, like-
that. Yeah, because I've talked about this on a recent podcast with a buddy of mine named Hunter. He calls himself Cringe Daddy.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I came across him in my...
Yeah. And we were talking about this too. Like, I definitely would want to do a podcast. It's just a matter of when I'm ready to do it, right? Like, having a studio, production, the lighting, the cameras, producer who's behind the camera, an editor, because one person can't do an entire podcast. It's just too much time and too much energy put into it to create something that is going to be consistent.
Right. And it like, do you, in your mind, like, how long do you have to go before, I mean, I guess it depends how quickly you can grow, but, you know, with what you're doing now, like, you want to, is your idea to be an internet guy, like a YouTube guy, and make a living off of vlogging and just your personality on the internet, like creating content?
Yeah. I definitely want to create content as a thing to kind of have people be kept up to date. Like, okay, this guy is consistent with doing YouTube. He's posting about his life in a way where he gets to show people like behind the scenes, kind of like a podcast, or like the people that I meet at events or social gatherings, networking styles, right? And to be able to show people like, okay, what I'm doing, right, to a certain extent, like show them like, okay, I'm traveling to this place, I'm doing this, I met this person, or I got to do this for this company, or do campaigns, right?
Okay, like as a photographer and stuff.
Yes, as a photographer, on the photographer side, I want to do more of like networking with other creators or sports, concerts, brand work. Kind of similar to what Paul does, where they create content for other brands or companies, and they are able to produce that. So similar to like the production side is what I want to kind of do with videos aside from YouTube.
Right.
And then photography, just be able to have my services for people who want photos.
Sure. So can you explain to the listener like how you got introduced into this world? Like, you were the third guy in Nelk, or the photographer, like, and was that kind of your first exposure to the internet world?
Yes. Yeah. It was. So obviously we were around the same age where we grew up watching YouTubers. We watched people older than us, about 10 years older than us, who started like the YouTube, basically the pioneers and OGs of YouTube.
To me, it was like Wild Boys and Jackass.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up at a time like being on the internet, watching YouTube, watching all these OG like people who are in their 30s, 40s now.
Yep.
And being exposed to that and saying, "Oh, this is really cool." Like, they get to show people and allow them to see what they're doing and be inspired by that. So that's kind of got me drawn into it. And then obviously, I said this story a few times where I met Kyle in high school.
Okay.
So
What high school did you go to?
Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel. So my cousins went to Meadowville.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So we had a rivalry
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
And so basically, we were acquaintances. We didn't sort of talk to each other much or knew each other that well. We just saw each other in the hallways and had mutual people there
Sure.
who I was in class with, and I see him like cool like. And during the time, it was 2010, and he's actually said it too, with a few buddies of mine, that he started like while in high school, and it was just kind of like, you know, skits and all that. It was pretty funny, right? And it was like one of the first times where I saw somebody that I knew personally, like start to create like content on YouTube and be exposed to like, okay, this is much different because you are not so much used to that as a kid or as a teen, like knowing
someone who is also has like an internet persona.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I think it depends on where you grow up and who you know. Right. I was just a regular guy who just did regular things.
Yeah.
You know, and just went to school and just chilled at home and played games.
So you became their photographer and filmer and editor? Is that?
First started, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. My role was part-time for about a year, 2016.
Okay.
And I just hit him up. I hit Kyle up randomly because he was like the first point of contact. And I said to him, I think it was a DM on Instagram.
Sure.
I said, hey, I'm a photographer now. I've been doing it for about 2 years. I noticed that you guys are taking photos of yourselves, and I just want to help out and take some photos of you.
Sure.
And he just said, oh, yeah, for sure. Like, come out, take some photos for us, see how it goes. The first encounters was pretty good. Didn't really ask for much at the beginning, obviously.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're like, well, we need somebody to start filming our pranks now because we don't want to be switching over from one person to the other and then having to, you know, be so preoccupied with filming. So they kind of brought me along to do a part-time thing of filming like the first video. So I don't know if I said this before. It was the very first one that I filmed for them was the Subway prank. Not Subway, Starbucks.
Okay. What was that prank?
So they got a uniform for Starbucks. They went to Starbucks around Mississauga and pretended to be fake employees.
Okay.
And it's just like the typical like pranks of like the comedy, the humor, the improv.
Yep.
And just kind of doing like a bit of extra things that like regular employees wouldn't do.
Okay.
And kind of like being weird to
making people awkward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Making it feel awkward for the customers, or like fighting with each other in front of customers. You could go find it. It's like still on the channel, right? That was the first video I ever filmed for them. So
you started filming, and then did they hire you?
I was kind of in between of me working at Walmart.
Okay.
Right? And like taking the risk and committing to this full time.
Yep.
And basically giving up everything I had before and just starting with something new that I saw had potential, but I didn't know for myself whether or not it would be something that I could fully
make a living from.
I
mean, it's like, I guess to be frank, it's not that big a risk quitting Walmart as a kid, right? But
well, I mean, at the time I was still 20. I was 22, 23.
Okay. So, young adult,
So, like, young adult. I wasn't necessarily a kid yet at that time. And I was September 2017 when I finally quit.
Okay.
And then that's when, like, the whole journey started of me being in that group. And it was us three at the time.
Yep.
And was able to just do road trips.
So did they hire you as, like, an employee? Like, or was it even that structured at all?
It was an
just
employee.
Kind of, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an employee.
Okay.
Like, at the time, though, it wasn't like as what do they call it, a company yet. Yeah. It wasn't an established company, so they just hired me as somebody that's just like, okay, you have a position. This is your position.
Yep.
This is your role, and then that's really it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there like a clear vision? Like, did you see the potential? Like, I mean, I guess 2017 YouTube's up and running. Like, people are making a lot of money on YouTube.
Yeah.
So that was the goal. The goal was to be viral, to make big videos.
Yeah. Well, that was their goal. That was their whole mindset. I was just there to help film for them, right? That was my role, and then take photos for them because I was that third person that just helped with their content.
Sure.
Right. And then, it just started as a photographer, and then.
When did things change? When did you
transition?
Get in front of the camera?
March,
because you became from my homework. I've seen all these compilations of you in front of the camera. You went from behind the camera to in front of the camera and became a character in the videos.
Yeah, that was March of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so that ran for about 6 months, from August to October.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so about 7 months or so, and that was because they had more people join the team, like Austin, this guy, Adrian, and a few other people who help with like the editing, the filming. So I was transitioned to that role.
Sure.
Yeah, as an online personality, and it was something too that I said before, where like I insisted on taking on because I wanted to see. At the time, I was a different person. I was so focused on wanting to get more attention and more focused on myself.
Yeah.
So that kind of drew me to like wanting to be on camera because I wanted to get sort of that recognition I felt that I wanted. When in reality, it's like it's much more bigger than myself, right? Like there's other things that revolves more than just myself.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And at the time, like I had a big ego, and it was something that I personally didn't accept or realize or acknowledge until recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like watching. So I've watched a couple of these videos or compilations people have put together where you're in front of the camera, and it just doesn't seem like you were. Like you didn't grow up with this desire like Kyle and Jesse did to like be famous and like create this whole thing. Like you were just kind of thrust into it.
In a sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. It was just more of... It was just something that I felt like, okay, I'm in a good position, and I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of potential there. I mean, millions and millions of views, right?
Subscribers as well. Yeah. It was really jumping on around that year.
Mm-hmm.
Like early 2019 is when it really started to take off for them.
Yeah. And did you feel like you became famous, like very recognizable, or had, you guys certainly had a following, but like, how did that change your life?
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Good because it's sort of, in a sense, it gives you like a sort of recognition that people know who you are, like they recognize your face. The bad with it is just obviously it comes with it, right? Like of being famous, quote unquote famous, because I don't like
internet famous.
Yeah, I personally just don't like. I don't really go with that term anymore. I'm just like a public figure, I guess, or like a social media guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And on top of that too, I'm not really into like. I haven't so much focused on social media that much, just because it's really bad for you mentally.
Like consuming a lot of social media.
Yeah, and so. I was really experiencing a lot of different things now, like people treating me differently, and in a good way, in a sense, because like they know who I was, and they kind of give you that sort of special treatment, which I kind of get where they're coming from, because they want to be nice and they want to accommodate me. At the same time, it's like I'm just a regular guy with a name, like associated name to myself. Like I'd rather just be treated the same as everyone else. Like it depends on the situation, right? It's just, for me, it's like I don't want to be gifted things. It's very appreciative, like you gifting me these things. It's just sometimes I don't
it's
really
transactional, like people want something in return, or
not so much. It's just a favor or something, like a gift to me. It's just I appreciate it, right? Don't get me wrong, like it's really very thankful for that. It's just you don't always have to, right? Yeah. I'm the type of person that doesn't expect things to be given to me. It's just more of like I earn your respect, or I earn what I do for you,
right?
As a mutual respect.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
So you're on this rise. Do you kind of what were your goals at the time? Like you've kind of have, during this time you're on camera, you're on one of the biggest YouTube channels in the world, or maybe not, but a very big YouTube channel, and you've got all this opportunity and potential. Do you kind of realize it at the time, or do you take it for granted?
I would say I did take for granted because I didn't realize how much impact and how much influence we had on people.
Yep.
And how much people watched our videos and got, made their Mondays funny or made it more fun to start the week, right?
Sure.
And, or even, not even Mondays. I think it was 3 times we did it a week.
Yeah.
We posted videos. So it really did. I didn't realize that until later on, probably a year or two ago, where people started to show more support after I was on my own and doing my own freelancing and being my own solo, right? So it really got me to see how much I was able to impact some people, and it's very humbling experience.
Yeah. Could if you could, and not that you can ever go back, but knowing what you know now, would you go back and do things differently and try and stay a part of the brand? And because there's a lot of leverage there that, you can leverage, good or bad, but you could use to do whatever you want kind of going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs, right?
Yeah.
It's I get what you're coming from, because it's if I realize what I had at the time, then I could use that to help my career as an independent, right? Later on, if I did decide, it's a lot of what ifs. If I did decide to move on, or if things didn't work out, I still had leverage where I could use that for my future career as a solo or freelancer, right?
Yeah.
I feel like everything happens for a reason, where you can't look back on the past and say, this is what could have happened, this is what should have happened, or this was what would have happened.
Right.
Because
you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, and you can't change the past. You can't change history. The only thing you can do is rewrite it. So I realized that after reading a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay.
By Mark Manson. And
I've never read the book.
It's funny because I see this almost on every podcast, because it's just that book really helped me change my life. And it also...
In what ways?
It really made me it really made me look back on what happened and my past and realize, okay, this is what I need to change about myself. This is what I could have done differently. How I took advice or constructive criticism or help from people and use that as a way to help grow myself as a person, instead of being so defensive or egotistical and really pushing people back.
Yeah, no, I think that's great insight from the 2 videos that I kind of watched, where it was everything, you were on camera. It was you had a wall up, someone would say something and it looked like you felt like it was a personal attack on you.
Yes.
But everyone's just razzing each other like it's a group of boys.
Yeah, and it's also friendly advice or criticism that will help me in the future. And I didn't see it that way at the time, and it really did change my perspective on also relationships and your own personal goals and your values and your boundaries, and just knowing how to be a better person. You should definitely read that book.
Yeah, I know for sure. I listen and read to a lot of books in that same vein. Is that the only book that's kind of helped you along your personal journey?
I actually read his follow-up book. It's called Everything is Fucked.
Okay.
A book about hope.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a different book.
Yeah.
It's just it really teaches you a lot of different things about you, knowing how to use your thinking brain and your feeling brain, and separating what you're thinking and how you're feeling, because those are 2 different things that is a part of your brain. You could think of something that's logical, or you could feel something that's coming from your own emotions, and you have to know when to separate those 2 and not have those interfere with each other, because it sets you up for a bad outcome. If you're thinking if you're thinking from a logical standpoint about a situation, but you also have your feelings in between, it's going to be conflicting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very tough to be a dispassionate observer of our own situation.
Yeah, yeah. And there's I was actually saying this to one of my to my barber who's Vietnamese. Okay. There was a story that happened in the 1960s, around 1963 or something, and it was at a time when Vietnam was splitting from North and South of Vietnam, right? During the almost before the Vietnam War.
Okay.
So basically, they had a communist leader who was leading, I believe, North Vietnam. Okay, and then there was another guy, I forget his name, who wanted to become their own sort of country, kind of like North and South Korea, right? And long story short, he basically manipulated. He wanted to be the good person, like supporting Buddhists.
Okay.
Right? And being like the opposite of what they were used to with this communist guy, right? In the end, he basically manipulated his entire country into believing what he was doing as a politician, and basically was like killing Buddhists and like banning Buddhism in the country, like I think South Vietnam, and that's what caused this whole friction of the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And then these three monks, okay, they at the time they didn't have computers or they didn't have phones. They had to do like the sort of Morse code type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they would tell reporters and photographers, come out to this specific location on this specific day at this time.
Okay.
So one photographer managed to come here, to that location, right? And a bunch of reporters came out, and they didn't know what to expect. Like, it was in the middle of the day, and it was just a regular, like, people were just walking by minding their own business, okay? So I think a teal car comes out of nowhere, parks in the middle of the road, and three monks come out of the road. One comes out with, I forget, I don't want to butcher it, but one came out with a jerry can of gas.
Mm-hmm.
The other one came with a blanket, I believe. And the third monk, he comes out and sits in the middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
They pour gas on him,
mm-hmm.
and they light him on fire.
Right.
And this monk is not in the book. It's describing like this monk was literally in a lotus position, just sitting there meditating while he's on fire with no yelling, no emotions, and everybody just stopped and stared at him, and just like, what is going on? Like, this is like, and there's a photo that shows, like, you could probably find it.
I've seen the photo for sure. It's
really
super famous.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know this. This is the first time I ever.
Yeah, it's
heard
on the
about
cover of like a Rage Against the Machine album.
Really?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that it was like it became. I mean, I would have guessed it became infamous just based on the history. I didn't realize it'd be like.
Like super big cultural moment.
Yeah, and that's what caused the war to fight back against the government and the politicians, and that's what kind of caused it. And it was just so interesting because it's like that's kind of like what's happening now.
In what sense?
In a sense where people are pushing back on our government and just like kind of fighting back about our rights and our freedoms, right? That's a whole different topic. It's just interesting to know, like, okay, people are kind of like distrusting our government and politicians.
Well, I think that's growing more and more, and you don't need to look back far in history to see the distrust of government.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, I think the baby boomers, like everyone our parents' age, grew up in this historical lull where there really was no conflict. If you were in Canada, even if you were in the States, unless you went to Iraq, or any of those Middle Eastern wars, I guess you had the nuclear, the Cold War with Russia, where you're a little bit concerned about complete annihilation. But before that, there was World War I, World War II. All these wars, all these European wars, and so like our parents really kind of were lulled into this. Like everyone our parents' age were really lulled into this, like this, the end of history where governments don't do super heinous things anymore, and there aren't world wars anymore, and it's but I think we're coming out of that now. I think people our age and people younger are certainly more distrustful every day of the governments, and I think it's because of the internet and because of YouTube and social media and live videos.
And it's because of the times, right? Because our parents and people, our grandparents and all that, they didn't grow up with phones, technology, internet to be able to communicate with other people or see what's going on in the world unless it was from news. And we all know how news nowadays are like big media companies, right? Or news companies, that is. And so it was very different because people had to just go with what they saw and what they heard and not so much have somebody who's in those situations or saw those situations firsthand to really give their perspective or their point of view and tell it to the world, right? So now, example would be like nowadays where if something happened where they have two sides of the media saying something and then people on social media who have two different opinions, right?
Yeah.
There's always three sides to the truth. There's one side, the other side, and then the truth.
Sure.
And the truth lies with who was able to see it and give their perspective. And
see it most clearly, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Because who are you going to believe if there's no one there?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like that it's kind of like that riddle. It's like if you're in the middle of the forest and someone cuts a tree down.
Or a tree falls.
Yeah. Will it make a sound?
Yeah.
I mean, to answer that, like, no one's going to hear it.
Yeah.
There's still going to be sound. It's still going to make a sound. Just nobody's there to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like...
It's kind of both. It's you know, for there to be sound, the definition of sound is when those waves hit your ear. Right? So there's waves, but there has to be a person there to receive the waves. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, I'm not really so good with what's the term for that type of
I don't know. Physics or neural I don't know.
Neurologist?
Yeah, I'm not a neurologist.
Is that
that's like a brain scientist.
Okay, so it's kind of like the same. I mean, I was gonna say neurologist. I wasn't too sure if that's like
a brain doctor. Yeah,
I wasn't sure if that was the correct occupation.
Yeah.
Anyways, like
I want to get back. I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
No. It's all good. I love. We can talk to whatever.
Yeah, we can get back.
I want to ask you how. Like you seem like kind of like a quiet, shy guy by nature.
Mm-hmm.
When you were doing these pranks, when you were filming them, like a big aspect of the pranks were how socially tense it was. Like how awkward these things were. Like to go. Shotgun a beer in the middle of a lecture hall in university or something like that.
Yes.
Were you nervous filming like in these situations?
Yeah. Okay. There have been a lot of times where I felt nervous or like, okay, somebody's going to do something to be a hero. And there's always times where people...
Oh, like to shut you guys down?
Yes.
Oh.
Like, okay. Let me think. There was a time this happened, okay? I told this story recently with... two buddies of mine, Money Buys Happiness podcast. Okay,
I've recognized that. So when I started doing a podcast, I just searched the hashtag Toronto podcast to see like what other people were doing, and I found their podcast.
Yeah. Shout out to Anthony and Ernesto.
Yeah. So I followed them on the gram. Yeah, just because it was like, oh, they do a nice production.
Yeah, you should definitely hop on their podcast, connect with them.
Yeah,
I'll let you connect.
Yeah, for sure,
with one of them. Anyways, I said on their podcast before where there was a time when we were filming in the hood of Inglewood, which is right by the highway, or right by the airport.
Okay.
And we did this fake KFC employee prank.
Okay.
This is in the hood, by the way. So this is like a KFC. Everyone there was Latino.
Okay.
And there were the type of people that had nothing to lose. So I'm inside. I'm filming like under the table with the manager there, and I think it was Jesse and this other guy named Cassidy Campbell. Okay, and the footage is nowhere on YouTube, by the way. You can't find it anywhere. This is like one and done. Okay, so long story short, they finished filming it. It wasn't that funny. They didn't get a reaction. Okay, so we all walk out from like a corner of the restaurant. So let's say. Here's a counter, like right here is like the counter with the employees in the kitchen. We're on the left side of the counter.
Yeah.
And the doorway is in front. So we're right here, we're right here. the counter's here and the door's here.
Yep.
So we walk out. They walk out, like Jesse and Cassie walk out the door. We follow them outside, and the employees and the managers saw us and recognized that we were filming. So they're all, like, half of the employees all jumped out because the place was empty.
Okay.
It was like,
so they followed you out the door.
they followed us out the door. It was a rainy day, and from what I remember hearing, like, they wanted to take the uniforms away. They were, like, choking them with, like, the collars.
Oh, it was like a full beatdown.
It was like, it wasn't a beatdown, but, like, they were, like, they were intimidating us, like, oh, like, we want those uniforms, and then they wanted the footage.
Why were they so upset? These are just the, like,
they had nothing to lose. They just had the mindset of, like, okay, we don't want to be filmed. Like,
sure,
they didn't know how to handle it, I guess.
Yeah.
How other people would. And then this one employee literally chased me.
Okay.
But I had my camera in hand, and he was, like, literally chasing me around the parking lot. And it was a rainy day, so I slipped.
Yeah.
I hit a curb, and I dropped the camera. This guy picks up. He's like, "It's mine now, homie."
Oh.
Like, Holmes. He's like, "Yo, this is mine now, Holmes."
Okay.
And he says it in a Mexican accent.
Yeah.
Or not accent, but like a...
Yeah, accent. Yeah.
Okay, accent. Yeah. So he goes inside, okay? The employee who took it goes inside. The managers all go inside. And then they scratch up the SD card with a knife. And it was completely destroyed where we couldn't recover the footage.
Jeez.
So we wanted to recover it. They couldn't do... The company that we sent it out to in San Francisco couldn't get it fixed.
Oh, yeah.
And...
I've never had any luck with those SD card recoveries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we completely lost the footage. We had to deal with police. They were like...
They called the cops on you guys?
We called the cops because they took our camera, and they were inside for like half an hour.
And nothing happened? Did you get it back?
Yeah, we got the camera back and everything, but the SD card was absolutely destroyed. This guy comes out with his girlfriend. She's in the car. He hops out of the car on the passenger side. He has his hands in his hoodie pocket. He's like, "Yo, Holmes, like that wasn't funny. Like I wasn't laughing. Like I don't like to be filmed." Or whatever. He's like, and then I think like under his breath, he's like, "Yo, I got a Glock with me or something."
Jesus.
Yeah, this is in the
He's
hood.
threatening you over what?
Like just filming him. But we weren't even filming him. We were filming the manager and the employees.
Weird.
But he thought he was filming us. Like, he thought we were filming
Yeah.
this guy.
Holy cow.
And the girlfriend's like, "Get back in the car. Like we need to leave and all that." And then that was one of the moments where like people were like threatening us and like scaring us.
Was that the scariest thing ever?
Yeah,
that you guys did?
That was probably my
I guess
scariest.
having a gun in the situation.
Well, we don't know for sure.
Oh, okay.
Although that's just that situation of them fighting back and like really like having nothing to lose.
Yep.
And really like putting their jobs on the line.
Right?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In the hood of Inglewood. You have to think about it too. This is like legit in the hood prank.
Maybe not the best place
No,
to
we
be
didn't
doing
know.
pranks.
We literally just decided to pick any KFC around us. We went to the first location. We had no idea about how Inglewood was, if it was part of the hood, because obviously you have Compton, you have Inglewood, and then you have Hawthorne is another area, which is like the general area of the hood of LA.
Jeez.
So we didn't know any of this stuff, and people were like, "Wow, like that really happened?" Like, yes, like
Safer to be doing pranks in Canadian universities.
yeah. And so then there was like times where like people try to take the cameras away from us, away from me actually. Like they would see the camera, they'd come up to me and they'd start grabbing it. And
were you ever so nervous that you're like, "Oh man, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it."
Yes. Okay, there was times where we did like hitting bongs in lectures.
Okay. In like a big lecture hall.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen those videos.
And
those
then,
are freaking hilarious.
And then like times where there was a lot of times.
Did that get the heart rate going? Like you thought like this campus security was gonna come in and like and like the profs were,
or they were gonna call police or something.
Yeah.
And then there's so many times and instances where like people would see me and like they would like want me to delete the footage, and it's like I can't delete it. Actually though, there was another story like I told about Amsterdam, where we went to the red light district and I was filming in front of police and I didn't realize it, and we got such a great clip. And the police saw me. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just filming the river. I'm filming the canal and all that."
Yeah.
It's like, "You can't film here or whatever." So
you're not allowed to film in the red light district.
no, you can't film or have any photos. And they have signs everywhere that says no photography, no video, or no cameras. And then I was just showing them from like daytime. And they're like, "Okay, like that's not it. Like, that's like from daytime. Like, what about nighttime? Because it was filmed at nighttime, and I had to show them the footage. Like, yeah, you need to delete it. If you don't delete it, we have to arrest you.
So you had to delete it on the spot?
I had to delete it on the spot. No, and the trick was that we would take the SD card of the camera, hide it, and then show like, hey, like there's no footage here.
Yeah.
And I had to delete on the spot.
And you guys had good footage?
It was a pretty good clip.
Did you ever have any like massive losses where like you'd filmed like a whole weekend of something and then like the footage is just gone, or you lost the SD card or anything?
Yeah, there was a lot of times where that happened. Well, not every single time, but there was times where we just like we just lost it. Damn. I there's a whole different story. Like, I mean, you probably heard on the podcast about the time in Amsterdam.
I don't know if I listened to that one.
Oh yeah,
it was. I've listened to. I think I listened to you on Nelk.
Yeah, no, it was on that podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's an hour and a half, so it's a very long podcast. Yeah. But like, there was a time where we were in Amsterdam, and I was just so stupid. It was dumb where I left the cameras in front of the dashboard.
Oh, I saw that in a YouTube video, and someone broke into the.
Yeah.
Someone broke into the car.
It was in a Sprinter van.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And you lost all your footage.
Yeah. And the cameras.
That sucks.
Right. And obviously it's like, okay, obviously like that happened 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like, I wasn't intentional. It wasn't all like I planned to, like, oh yeah, like I'm planning to get it stolen, right? It's just like instinctively I was just dumb.
Yeah.
It was just a mistake. Was like, okay, you learn from that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right?
So you I heard on the one podcast that you guys moved into a house in LA.
Yes.
Can you explain to, like, 'cause I feel like I'm a bridge between like young people and like baby boomers. Like, I've got a lot of like older people who are in the audience. Like, can you explain what a house is, like a content house?
A content house?
Is that what, like, that's where you guys moved to?
Well, it's called the Klutt House.
Okay.
And if you look on Google, it actually shows up on Google, the Klutt House.
Okay.
In the Hollywood Hills.
Okay. What goes on there?
So it's a 4-story house, mansion.
Okay.
And it was just it was a group called FaZe Clan.
And what do they do?
They do gaming, like.
Okay.
Gamers.
Like streaming.
Yeah, it's streamers before, but they have like competitions. They actually go into, or what's it called? What's the term for the competitions they do? I forget.
I don't know, like gaming competitions.
There's a word for it.
Okay.
I honestly forget the term. And they had a bunch of other creators, like Summer Rae was there, and this guy named Ricegum. And they lived in this house, and they just created their own content, and we create content with these other people,
right?
To kind of cross bridges of collaborations with these people to help gain an audience from their followings and vice versa, and just really grow together. Yeah,
it's a good idea.
It's a great idea, and that's what kind of. I wouldn't say they're the first ones to do it, but it definitely took that to a whole other level where now people are being influenced to have houses and have other big creators live together, create content together, and just build off of that. Yeah.
And I guess it promotes like working 24/7 and constantly capturing content.
Yeah. Well, from what they see on camera, right?
Sure.
Obviously things happen behind the scenes like they don't want to share, but it's like when you're in that lifestyle, when you're in that experience, you kind of have a understanding of like, okay, what it's like to live that life.
Right.
Where like it's constant work, like you sleep, you don't have that much sleep. You have endless hours of working till like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like no sleep, getting all this done. And nowadays it's like I actually get to have more sleep. I get to do the things I get to enjoy more and sleep early and not overwork myself.
Right.
Because a lot of people get burnt out by overworking themselves because they believe that's the best. Well, it to a certain extent, it is a belief of working to get where you need to be. Mm-hmm. You just got to be smart about how much you work. Right. Right.
Right, because you were saying like you guys were putting out 3 videos a week. Like that must be a massive amount of editing, or must have been.
Editing, time, sleep was taken away. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you Was there ever an option for you to like buy into the brand and become like a part of or have a piece of the upside that was all the like the full Send brand and everything?
Not so much. I was just an employee.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. What about you though? Let's talk about a bit about you though.
Sure.
Because like,
man, I've just been. I think this is episode 11 or 12.
11 or 12. Yeah.
I've had I don't know. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while.
Yeah. How long?
A couple years.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's like, yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, I'll get to that. And it's like, you can always find excuses. Like, I'm certainly a busy guy.
And how did you like get the idea? Like, this is the time I want to do a podcast.
It was one of those things where I didn't really have a choice anymore. It was just constantly on my mind. For better or for worse, it was like I didn't have an option.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like I'd regret it too much if I didn't, start doing it.
And it's also too because you're fortunate enough to have a studio, right, like within your office.
So fortunate. Yeah,
right?
It's incredible.
You have somebody here to help.
Yeah.
Film for you, do all of the, the pausing and recording.
It became perfect. Like I had no more excuses. Like we do a YouTube channel here for the shop.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have all the equipment already. We have everything already. And then, actually this was NASCAR Canada's office.
Oh,
and
sick.
They moved out because of COVID. So then we just had this space.
Wow.
And it's just like, all right, well, I guess we'll make it the studio.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Yeah. So I still haven't found my I still haven't found like kind of a topic. Like I guess the wisdom is go with a niche, kind of topic and grow your audience there. But I haven't done that. I've just been doing whatever. Whoever wants to come on, I'll have them on, or whatever I'm interested in, I'll have them on. I've been doing a lot of race car.
Yeah, I seen on your channel.
I'm a race car driver.
I took a look at your channel as well, and I saw it. Excuse me. You had a lot of race car drivers, a lot of friends of yours in the industry of race car. So people don't know, like, you are a race car driver.
Yeah.
You're in race carring. I did a bit of research myself too, so don't worry.
Yeah, no, I grew up racing go-karts and then racing the NASCAR Pinty Series, the Canadian NASCAR Series. So we're running the whole season this year. Yeah. And we're off to Quebec tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a perfect time. Going to Montreal?
We're going to Valley Junction, which is an hour south of Quebec City.
Oh, yeah, so about a 7 hour,
9 hour drive.
9 hour drive, I mean.
Yeah, it's fine.
Hey, you can't stop in Montreal for a bit?
No, dude. This is
just a straight business.
Straight in and out.
But then after you've done that, though, you could stop by Montreal, right?
I got to get back. Right back to work.
Business calls.
Yeah, man. I had doing the podcast and doing the racing. I haven't taken anything off my plate as far as work goes.
Yeah, I looked on Google that you started racing when you're in 2000, so you're only like eight years old.
Yeah, I think I was still 7 at the beginning of the season. So yeah.
And you won karting championships in 03, 04, 05, and 07.
Your interviews turned around. Yeah, man, I've won a bunch of karting championships. Canadian nationals, a bunch of stuff. Actually, I was just telling. Funny, I had Lance Stroll on, Canadian F1 driver.
Okay.
I had him on a couple days ago. His episode will be out probably a week before this one.
Okay.
And my brother and I both won the Canadian Nationals, the Canadian National Go-Kart Championship, and in 2009. That was like, just a career highlight, cool deal.
So pretty much you built yourself a dynasty in the early 2000s. Because you won four out of the last 6 years.
Yeah, I guess something like that. I mean, there's a lot of different championships, and there's a lot of good racers that come out of Canada.
So you're kind of like the Golden State Warriors of karting.
No, I don't know. No, there's a lot of good guys. There's a lot of guys a lot better than I am.
Yeah, and then you became a professional in 2015?
Yeah, I did the first full season of the Canadian NASCAR Series in 2015 and won Rookie of the Year. And
yeah, congrats on that.
It was good. It was like, it seems like forever ago now, though, 2015.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of both ways. Like you look at it and it's like 2015 doesn't seem like that long ago, but like talking to you, it's like 2015 was kind of before your whole rise in the of internet fame.
How did it feel though when you won 6th place? Like your best finish was 6th place.
That's how I ended up. I think I forget if that was the owners championship or something. I think I finished 5th in the season that year and won a race.
Yeah,
it was good.
And you won the 2016 NASCAR team or something like that. You
Oh, it was yeah. Man, you did all your homework. 2016 I was in the NASCAR Next Class.
Next Class.
Yeah, so what that is NASCAR down in the States, they pick like a group of kids and they have them all down to Charlotte, and they run them through like their social media stuff. They like promote them. They put together like little packages. They help you like work on your public speaking, help you kind of work on your ability to go out and find sponsors
and talk to the media
and stuff, which is and just kind of do interviews and it's cool. Like a lot of those kids that I was in the class with are racing at the highest level now.
Yeah, it's kind of like something called XXL magazine.
Okay.
Where every year they have a class of new artists upcoming, so they have them like all together. It's called a freshman list.
Okay.
Right. So then the freshman year of their whole like mainstream career in a sense, where like they bring like I think 9 to 12 new artists, rappers specifically, and they kind of just do like freestyles and like all together, and it's just kind of like a way for people to know who they are now as like
and it's a magazine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You should look it up. It's called XXL.
Okay.
XXL magazine.
Yeah.
And it featured like back in the day a lot of the biggest artists now in hip hop and rap.
Right.
Like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Travis Scott. Who else? Oh, it's so hard to think of other Kodak. Like there's like Kodak, Lil Yachty, Lil Uzi. All these like new and older rappers all have been on this freshman list. It's kind of like a tradition now for like music and hip hop, like where they kind of curious debating who should have been on this list or who should have been on this next class, right?
Yeah. No, I like that. So many sports do that, and I think it's great.
Yeah, and
sports and culture and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, how long has NASCAR been around? Because I'm honestly so new to NASCAR or F1 in general.
Yeah, NASCAR has been around since, I guess, the early 50s or mid 50s.
Oh, okay.
NASCAR started. The history of NASCAR is rum running down in the Northeast or the Southeast, in like North Carolina, South Carolina.
Okay.
When there was prohibition and alcohol was illegal in the States, moonshiners who were making their own moonshine would soup up their hot rods to be able to outrun the police with their moonshine.
Oh.
And then they'd all get together and start racing. So those early races were on Daytona Beach down in Florida.
And that's kind of what kind of started.
That's how NASCAR started.
In Daytona specifically.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the guys, there was a lot of those early races on the beach. And a lot of the guys were from the Carolinas.
And then what kind of jump started with Indy 500? Like, it just
I don't know the history. That's kind of old motorsports history. Like I think I don't know when the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was built, but that's another, proper American
famous.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of history there. It's like there's a lot. You're always curious now. Whenever you get into like a sport or activity, you kind of like want to know the history of it. Like how did it start, right? So it's like for you, it's like NASCAR. Like what kind of started? Why did they choose Indianapolis, right? Why did they choose Daytona?
Yeah.
Because actually, it's funny. I bought a hat from Value Village, and it has a vintage. I should have wore it today for you. It says on the top Daytona.
Okay.
And it says Budweiser, like sponsored by Budweiser.
Yeah.
And it's just like an old vintage hat, right? I should have wore it.
Man, all that NASCAR stuff is all the rage now with the in the vintage shops, eh?
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
Like old NASCAR shirts, like you see so many people walking around wearing like what I think is super dope, like 80s and 90s NASCAR like
and
vintage shirts.
The best thing about that is vintage is this entire outfit is all vintage.
Okay.
I love vintage shopping.
Yeah.
Because one, you save money.
Yeah. Oh,
Two,
for sure.
Because think about it like this, though. If you're into Nike, a Nike sweatsuit for Tech Fleece sweater and sweatpants, $360 now combined.
Holy
no,
cow.
300. Sorry, 300. So that's $360. So it's $180 now for a sweater and the sweatpants separately.
Yeah, I'm not into that stuff.
$360.
Crazy.
Before it used to be $120 for it. So you're spending $240 for a sweater and a hoodie, or a hoodie and sweatpants. Now it's so much more with the inflation and all that. And with vintage shopping, one, you get to keep history. You get to keep like, this is like I think Levi's, I think.
Yeah, jean jacket vest.
Yeah, and on the back of it, it's like inspired. Somebody painted, Pablo, Kanye West.
Okay.
It's like Pablo. Okay. If you look it up on Google, if you search up Pablo denim jacket, Kanye West designed this with like the Life of Pablo, his album.
Okay.
And it's just big text of Pablo, and it's all down the denim jacket behind. Yeah, it's so dope, and I just love vintage, right?
No, the vintage stuff is great. Like I've always kind of shopped at like Value Village and stuff like that. Like, it's to not people get so excited about, saving the planet and doing all these things and like pushing their agenda on other people, but like if you really put your money where your mouth is, you buy used everything. Like manufacturing new clothes, like old clothes take up a huge amount of space in landfills.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. So like, to just buy new clothes just for the sake of it and throw your old clothes away, like that's a huge waste. And same with furniture. Like, manufacturing and shipping stuff from China and bringing it here and assembling it like is huge.
Because you think about it now, since we can remember like having furniture or having clothes, like proper like clothes from all these big brands like Nike or Jordan or whatever, Adidas, Adidas they call it.
Yeah.
It's actually pronounced Adidas.
Okay.
And Reebok, I don't know, no one likes Reebok, right? Like these companies have been creating clothes for 40, 50 years now. And,
sure.
And it's like, where does all these other clothes that no one buys go to?
Right.
Do they burn them? Do they keep them in their factories like hoarded?
They go to landfills, like, or you mean like ones that aren't sold?
Yeah, like what do they do with it? Like,
I don't know.
Like, do they? If you think about this though, right? What if, and maybe they have done this, but like big companies like Nike, all the clothes that they had for like the last year's whole inventory, right?
Yeah.
The ones that they didn't sell, or the shoes they didn't sell, or hats, whatever they sell. This is like just like a big, broad idea. Like all those clothes could have been donated to places where kids don't have or families don't have clothes.
Yeah.
Right?
The thing is now, I don't think there's that many places anymore that don't have clothes.
I mean,
like there's not, like we have in North America, we throw out so much corn and grain and like, there's so much, we don't have the problem. Very rarely is there a problem of not having enough food anymore or not having enough clothes. Like, there's certain little places where it's because of a political issue or, whatever, but there's enough now in the world. It's just a matter of getting it to the right places. Man, it's insane how much more expensive groceries are now.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Or anything in general.
Well, gas, dude. To fill up my pickup truck, I had a $300 fill up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever see this video on Instagram on this guy had to fill up his RV and it costed him like $500. Well, at the time it was still like, it wasn't as bad as it is now, like over $2. It was like $500, almost $600 to fill up his RV, which I guess like I don't know how much like if it was like $1.15 or something or like $1.20 like back in the, like maybe 2 years ago, maybe it would cost half of the price.
Yeah, which is insane.
Like maybe $300 or like $350 or something like at most, right?
Yeah.
Now you're paying $600, right? I had to fill up my gas tank at $100, and that's still like, let's say it's right below the 1/8 mark.
Yeah.
Even if I filled $100 in my gas tank, it would just reach like the 7/8
Yeah.
of your
Of
gas
the
tank.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even fill up.
Yeah.
Even at $100, right? I'm like, how much am I really gonna spend? Like 120 realistically would fill my gas.
I know, and to go filming, like, so right now, you're doing what would you say your occupation is? Like, are you trying to make a YouTube channel, or is that just to promote yourself as a a content creator or a freelance photographer?
Yeah, the YouTube is mainly as a content creator.
Okay.
And it really does help with promoting what I'm doing into other things. Like, okay, if I'm doing some content work for these brands, you could see that on my Instagram, or you could see more on my TikTok as a short video, right?
Sure.
Or it helps gain more exposure for these people. And then the YouTube side of it is just more of like allowing people to see what I don't show on other platforms. Like, you get to see the full length version of, let's say, like half of what I post, like, let's say on Instagram, if it's a photo, or if like it's a montage of like an event or something I did.
Yeah.
Right. The YouTube video, like this, for example, like people will see this podcast on your channel.
Yeah.
But they don't get to see what's behind the scenes, what I got to see before we did this podcast or after,
Yeah.
right? And so the behind the scenes content is what's I get to post on my YouTube channel, and and you get to see everything like that.
Right. So is your goal to be like, you were so exposed to like such a successful YouTube channel, is your goal to be doing that on your own, or is your goal to be a shooter, filmer, editor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my goal is to just create a brand for myself based on being a travel vlogger and travel photographer. Actually, it's so to kind of have my thought on it. Like, it really does. My goal is to really, like, show people my life in a sense, and also be able to do this as a career, like really make photography as a career, and also work with brands and work with companies and do campaign work and shoot production, like high quality productions.
Yep.
Right. Or let's say if it was for F1 or NASCAR, right? Like something like where, for example, like let's say you need somebody to help shoot photos or videos for your car or something, or shoot for your race or something, right? Like, that's something I'm willing to do because it's like, one, I love filming, but I also love creating like cinematic looking content.
Okay.
Right.
So you want to be like a one-stop shop for brands, and you can kind of package something up and deliver it to them. And
yes, exactly. And that's what I've actually been doing recently, where I get to create like a whole package deliverables of, let's say, photos. If you want photos, I could have photos for you delivered. If you want video, like a full-length YouTube video, or like behind the scenes, I could do that. I could also create TikToks to promote it and expose your brand, your company, your campaign work, or whatever you're promoting. And then you have Instagram, where I could post photos to show people, okay, this is what I did with you, partnership, and also have a video to go along with it, and then also tag you in these videos, share them stories, and post behind the scenes content. And these are some things that, like, a lot of people now are realizing that content is worth money now.
Right.
Because in the US is so much opportunity, as you probably realize. Like, so much opportunities are in the US. There's so much people you could meet, so much connections, and so much work that you could get out of the US, right? Regardless of where you are. And there's so much opportunities. In Canada, we're getting there. It's like, it's a slow transition from the in-person type of work that we used to do to now the digital side of it, where now everything's transitioning to digitally, where all your work and what you get paid for is digitally, like digitally posted or shared or exposure now.
Right. People are paying for exposure. Exactly. So you want to build your platform big enough to monetize your own fan base.
Exactly.
Right.
And create a community around not so much around myself, but like what I am able to create.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And have people appreciate, okay, this is what I do for a living. Like I want people to I want those people who support me to also support what I do, like not just as a person, but as my career. Like,
right.
Support, like, okay, this guy's a photographer, cool. Like, if you really want, photos done for you, like I'm willing to help you as long as it fits for me, like it's something that I'm interested in.
Sure.
Or video content, whether it be like an event or a sporting event or a concert or like a wedding, not a wedding, but like just like even like a photo shoot or something. Like if it feels like it fits right with me and like your style is what I like, I'm gonna go with it, because I've learned that you don't want to do something just for the money and not be happy shooting that content or doing that race or having a promotion or a company come up to you and you're like, I don't like it, but I'm only doing it for the money.
Right. No, for sure. Especially when you're trying to build a brand. So, yeah, and the thinking back, would you, like, now that you're on your own, you kind of set your own hours, you do everything you want, going back to your previous life in the, a party phase or whatever it was, because I don't know, I wasn't there. Were you guys, what I'm trying to get at is you guys were partying a lot. I've heard you mention before.
Yeah.
And you've changed, like it seems like you've changed your lifestyle like a whole ton. And you've talked about it.
Yeah.
You don't drink anymore or anything?
No, don't smoke any weed, or I'm completely sober.
And what did that for you?
What do you mean?
What made you decide to do that?
Okay. It's just I needed something different in my life where I want to feel healthier. I want to live better. I want to feel happier. And I don't necessarily need alcohol or drugs, like weed specifically, like to help me feel better or feel more confident in talking to people. Right. And using that as an excuse to be socially confident and less awkward.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, I feel like it's better for you to be yourself when people get to see the real you, and you're not drunk or you're not high. Yeah. Or you're on something or whatever the case may be. Like, generally people want to see who you are truly for, like, just as a regular person. Sure. Right? Why would you want to be around somebody who's drunk at like 5 p.m. On a happy hour and like to talking all this nonsense and just like being loud and obnoxious and arrogant, and it's like, do you want to be around that person? Or like, and then when they're sober, they're a completely different person. Like, right. Like they're probably sad at their job, or they're probably more kinder to people, or like they're more giving, right? When they're sober. Yeah. Right. You see, there's a lot of different personalities in people when they have alcohol. For sure. Alcohol makes you more aggressive. Yeah. Alcohol makes you more aggressive, but weed also just kind of makes you more chill. Right. For some people. Yeah. Do you think, because you mentioned that you felt like you had like a big ego. Do you think that was in part from alcohol? Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, not so much. I think it was just my own self-belief that I was like confident in what I did, and like because of the attention I got, it kind of really made me feel like I was like on top of the world. Right. Right. You felt like entitled? Yes. Right. I really did. And I really like helped me now realize, okay, like not everything is about you. There's bigger things in this world than you. Right. The word "you" is very like, it's very powerful in a way where it's like when you talk about yourself, it's like, and you say it's all about you. You did this, you did that. It's like, yeah, I did all those things, but I'd rather have somebody tell me what they like about me or what I did, because you want to give other people the realization, like, you're not talking about yourself.
Right.
right? It's different like when you're on a podcast, like you have to talk about yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
But like in a social setting, it's like the last thing you want to do is just talk about all about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You want to interact with people. You want to talk to them and get to know them more, right?
Right.
And I feel like it was a different podcast because like maybe I don't know, maybe like some people like in person or on a podcast, like maybe they don't talk to you much as what you do, or like they only talk more about themselves, right?
Sure.
Because it's an interview about themselves, right?
Yeah.
I feel like even in a social setting, like instead of you talking about yourself, like get to know that person. Talk about what they like or what interests them, what got them interested in, let's say, racing, or what got them exposed to this, whatever they do in life, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. So you're on the podcast grind, and what's the idea? Like you reach out to different guys, like, hey, I'll come on the podcast. And is the idea just to kind of grow awareness, just like your YouTube and TikTok and Instagram?
Half and half. Like one would be, yeah, like if what I'm doing currently, like current events, or like let's say I'm out filming some stuff, like you guys check it out, or something big that happened in my life that I could talk about and be like share behind the scenes like stories or experiences that I did at these events or travels that I did. I post on social media, right?
Yeah.
Or it could just be just for fun.
Yeah.
Like this is just more of like
just for fun.
Like half of it is about my life, but
Yep.
half of it was just about casual conversation. Like,
Yep.
What's the time here looking at? Do we know?
We're an hour and 10 in or so.
Okay,
like
so
that.
it's not like too long,
Yeah.
but it's like not too short,
Yeah.
because like an hour is like a sweet spot.
Yeah. What do you think? I don't know. I never set a time. I just keep rolling.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny you say that because a lot of the podcasts like to set themselves to around an hour, which is a good time, like hour to an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
They don't
unless I actually have like something to do, because I'll be like, oh, sorry, we're out of time. Gotta go.
Yeah. That's different. Like,
but people said it. You're saying people said an hour?
an hour to an hour and a half max.
Okay.
Just honestly, it depends on the conversation.
Right.
Like the podcast I did with this podcast called Huddle Talk, Huddle Talk TV. They're hilarious.
They're from Toronto?
They're from Mississauga.
Okay.
You should definitely hit them up if you want to go on the podcast.
Huddle Talk. Okay, I'll look them up.
Huddle Talk. Yeah. And we just kept talking our shit, and it was like for 2 hours.
Wow, and you're just talking shit.
Yeah, it felt like a movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, you're like watching a movie because it's 2 hours long, right?
Yeah.
And it's just different topics about like life or experiences or childhood memories or conspiracy theories or what's your favorite type of pizza, right? Just any kind of topic that you could think of. Like we just kind of discuss about it and like have a huddle talk.
Sure. Do you think I feel like everyone, not everyone, but it might almost get to the same point as many people have Instagram, have podcasts. Do you think
Yes.
Do you think that's going to be the case in the future?
Like having like a series like on Instagram where like you post your podcast or something?
I mean, like it might be as common as having an Instagram, having a podcast.
Yeah. Cause like,
even if it's just talking to your phone.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people do post stories of like just them talking like nonstop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking too, like, have you ever thought of making a Instagram podcast account? Like the Gary Klutt Podcast?
Man, dude, I barely keep up with social media right now. I barely keep up with this right now.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's just find me on my own Instagram.
I don't know. I mean, if social advice.
Yeah. Okay. Give me all the dude. Well, you were a part of a freaking massive brand. So
it's
give me all the advice you can.
Respectfully, you could always create like Gary Klutt Podcast.
Okay.
Or the Gary Klutt Podcast.
Yep.
And have all your content posted there, like clips or photos or shorts, right? Or reels, right?
Yep.
And then have your YouTube channel where you still post shorts and all that. And then you could separate that from your personal account with like all your like your NASCAR racing and photos and videos, right? Because from what I've learned is it's like confusing for a lot of people when they see two different types of content
Okay.
on one page.
Okay.
That's meant to be like a personal account, right? If that makes sense. Like, you don't have to necessarily, what I'm saying is you don't necessarily have to post everything about a podcast on your personal, but if there's something that's interesting to you, or like a guest that intrigued you, and you want to post that clip or something impactful, it's good occasionally once in a while to post a clip from that podcast
on
episode
on
the personal, but everything else could all be posted on your podcast page.
Damn. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'll have to fire one up.
Just some food for thought, you know?
Yeah. I just need someone to run it.
Oh, yeah. You have him, right?
Nah, Mitch is not a social media guy.
But no, it honestly, you need a team for that. Like, you really need a filmer, a producer, an editor, and then somebody to post all that content for you.
Right.
Because you're just a host.
No, so now my next question is then, how do you, in your mind, how do you monetize a podcast? How do you grow it large enough to the point where you don't have to go and find sponsors, or sponsors come and find you?
Well, pick things that you like.
Okay.
Whether it be for NASCAR or for a drink or something that is related to what you do everyday lifestyle in terms of NASCAR and driving.
Sure.
And reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm a NASCAR driver. I have a podcast that is looking for sponsors. Would you want to sponsor me in helping promote your product?
Right.
Right.
Did you ever hunt sponsorship for the Nelk channel, or did you guys ever get sponsors for the Nelk channel?
I'm not the one to do that. That's not my job.
Okay.
That's why we had a manager to help that. And I don't think we did have any
sponsors.
No, because a lot of the people that would reach out would be corporate type of people. Like, they want you as the client to do what they want instead of giving you the freedom to do what you want creatively in promoting that brand, right? And that's something that I kind of realized too. It's like, as a creator and as a person, as like for your own entity and your own brand, like, you want to have that creative freedom to do something that you want to create, that you enjoy doing and enjoy seeing, but at the same time promoting that brand and that product.
No, I just look at this just kind of as doing it for fun, and you know, if it grows to a point where it makes sense financially to, well, either way, I'm gonna do it. I can't not. So I mean, once a week isn't too big a deal.
No, it's great, and people like are fine with that. Like, as long as you are just yourself and you bring really good advice and also share some knowledge.
Well, I don't know about good advice or knowledge, but I'll bring fun guests on.
Yeah, well,
no,
like,
I'm kidding.
For yourself, like, it's good for the audience to listen to, whether it be yourself or your guests, to share some knowledge and share some wisdom or insight about what they do and experiences, and hopefully that will help them and share that to their friends who are interested in that, right? And let's say you have an entrepreneur friend, right? You bring them on, and people who are watching this or want to be young entrepreneurs or wanting to separate from the 9-to-5 job.
Sure.
At least they could see that and be like, okay, like, help them somewhat influence them, or
like that guy did it. He's an example of how to do that.
Yeah. Give them motivation, right? And I think that would help you grow your channel and also be consistent with it. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to podcasts, or just anything in general when it comes to social media. Is being consistent.
Right.
And having content.
People like motivation.
Yeah.
So what do you have planned for this summer? What do you like? You're in the space of you're obviously into like hip hop and internet culture, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any big events planned to shoot this summer or anything like that? Big concerts or anything?
Can't say what exactly.
Okay.
Although I do want to shoot more basketball for the summer, more events.
Like Raptors stuff?
Not just Raptors. I think like there's something called the Global Jam in July.
Okay.
And it has a bunch of young talent who are like, I think 18 or under.
Okay.
And from countries, like different countries, 4 countries, I believe.
Okay.
And they get to just show their talent on a global stage, something like that, or whether it be university students or upcoming like draft players. Who are wanting to get into the draft, or like just getting into basketball like more professionally, something like that. I want to shoot games or workouts or just local games or tournaments, right? Like the Crown League coming up hopefully they come out this summer.
Cool.
It's in Toronto.
Yep.
And definitely more concerts. Like there's Veld coming up. I would want to shoot that. OVO Fest.
Okay.
Rolling Loud is coming to Toronto. So those are like 3 big festivals in Toronto that are happening this summer. And I'm sure there's other concerts too in between, like big name artists who come to Toronto.
Sure.
And you never know if Drake has a tour or something, or he has a concert in Toronto. Like you never know. The city's always gonna be buzzing with Drake. You know.
Yeah. Is that the goal, to work for Drake?
Not work for him, but like have the opportunity. Like my goal would be that the opportunity to shoot photos of Drake at a concert and maybe meet him or talk to him, or someone like J. Cole is another artist that I have been following for a while. Like just being in that presence of those 2 guys, it's just like life changing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. What's like your favorite? Who's your favorite artist?
I have all kinds. I don't know. I like everything from like ska, punk to like metal to country to. Yeah, I'm not super into the rap, but I certainly listen to rap.
If you had to pick one artist out of your entire catalog, who would you pick?
What if I could
any genre
interview or
no, like just all time, like who's your favorite like artist, like whether it be I don't know any genre, like who is the like one person or group that you'd be like I listen to that
all time would be like Iron Maiden.
Okay.
Yeah, like 80s metal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I have a question. If you were to take a photo of Iron Maiden, and they post it to their Instagram, would you rather get the tag or the bag?
Oh, for me, the tag.
Me too.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much they pay, but I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how much I'd have in common with their fans. I just think it would be, dude, what would be awesome? So, one year in Toronto, because we raced the Toronto Indy.
Yes.
And we raced the day before the Indy cars in the NASCAR series. And for people who haven't been to the Toronto Indy, you got to get there. Like we raced down Lakeshore. It's badass.
That's sick.
So I raced the Saturday, and the race was over at like 4 p.m. or like 5 p.m. And then me and my buddies, we had a couple beers after the race and then hopped over the track on Lakeshore. And I went to go see Iron Maiden that night at the amphitheater. So it was it was like the perfect day. And I was like trying to hit him up. I'm like, you guys are playing that night. You should be on a race car. You should have the full wrap on the race car. Sponsor me.
Did that ever happen?
No. But that would be the goal. So that would be even better than taking a picture.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked that is because like a friend of mine on a podcast asked that question, or he was asked that question, and it's just like my logic is. The bag is temporary. It's what you get paid for however much that they offer you.
Yeah.
But the tag is worth so much more because it's long term. It's
that they associate with you.
Yeah. You get people now are knowing who you are, and that could lead to more potential work with bigger people. Yeah. Right? So let's say someone like from Iron Maiden, like another group or another band sees that, like, oh, who's this guy? He took some really good photos.
Right.
Like, why shouldn't we hire this guy to like take some photos for us at our concert or our tour?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Lead to bigger opportunities.
That's good, man. Anything else you want to say to my viewers or questions or anything before we go?
Give this guy a follow. Subscribe to his channel.
Thanks, dude.
Follow him on Instagram. You know, I definitely share this podcast.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Like, I'm not super into pop culture, and it fascinates me. And you've definitely been in the eye of the storm of the internet culture for sure.
Yeah.
So
thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
Well,
that was Jason, or 905 Shooter. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, subscribe, rate it, and share it with some friends. Peace.